Hi, and welcome to Social Work 664 Treating Trauma Week 7. Congratulations, you have made it to our final week in our course through all of your hard work and efforts, through your discussion responses, through your readings, through thinking through some of these concepts in your journal entries. And for this week, you are really going to work to kind of bring everything together. All the work that you and your classmates have done in trying to understand the impact of trauma on individuals and thinking through the different populations and your ability to choose appropriate and relevant therapeutic interventions to apply. So, the theme this week is really thinking about some of our best practices and also wanting to really leave you with a message of hope. So let me talk a little bit about hope. One thing we know is that we have solid, concrete reasons for hope. We know that now schools and other systems that impact children and families are becoming more and more brain-based. We know that there's a whole field of science based on the fact that the brain is capable of healing and being changed. We also know that communities are becoming more brain-based and trauma-informed, and this can directly impact children and families. As many of you have worked on in your group presentations, we know that there's lots of trauma-sensitive therapies and programs out there now. We know the rise of somatosensory activities or bottom-up approaches has been really skyrocketing. Yoga, mindfulness, art and music therapy, the use of eye movement desensitization reprocessing therapy, EMDR, trauma-focused cognitive behavioral therapy for adults and children, Dr. Bloom's sanctuary model for organizational change, Dr. Bruce Perry's neurosequential model, which is something you've been reading about through the pages of his book, and lastly, ways of educating both individuals and communities about trauma have produced a lot of change that is happening on a systematic level. And, as we continue to think about hope, we want to remember the concept of post-traumatic growth. And, really the definition of this is that it's a change, a positive change experienced as a result of the struggle with a major life crisis or traumatic event. And we know this anecdotally through our own experiences, that human beings can be changed by their encounters with life challenges in radically positive ways. To date, there are about 300 studies since about the 1990s. And in those studies, almost 70% report positive psychological growth that have come from experiences in trauma. And, some of these positive things are new opportunities, closer relationships, stronger sense of self, greater appreciation for life, and an increased sense of spirituality or religious growth. So we want to think about how our brains can really shift into supporting everyone and thinking through that relationships are really the agents of change, and that when we think about the most powerful therapy among all of our techniques that we have been presenting on and reading about, that the most powerful therapy is really human love. And this is something that Dr. Bruce Perry says a lot. What we do understand as social workers is that healing takes place in the context of healthy relationships over time. And so I encourage you to just keep that at the forefront as we continue in our readings and our presentations for this week, is that hope is possible, healing is possible, and that we want to start seeing it as inevitable when we think about trauma-impacted individuals. So our objectives for this week are to be able to apply trauma interventions for different types of traumas to specific populations that have experienced these types of traumas, and to be able to demonstrate techniques that are geared to increase affect regulation, emotional regulation, trust, and relaxation. So we have our final chapter in Rothschild and also in Vanderkolk And for moving on to our discussion forums, the first discussion forum really is based off of your work over the last few weeks and your group presentations. And so all of you will have posted your PowerPoint presentations at this point. And so it should be posted as your initial group post in the discussion forum for this week. You want to make sure to title the post with your group's name. For example, the trauma topic, natural disasters, and the presentation. And so by the end of this week, each of you will need to review all of the presentations, and each individual should respond to each presentation using the bullets below as a focus. So specific information that you learned from the presentation, specific strengths of the presentation, and just some constructive feedback you have for presenters. Now, constructive feedback can be challenging for people. I encourage you to kind of think about, what more would you like to have seen? How can they expand upon what they presented? And how would you like to see more clarity? And this can usually help as you devise a constructive feedback post. So your group's initial post is really due by Sunday at the end of this week, week 6. And follow-up responses are due, as always, between Friday and Sunday of week 7. So you want to make sure that you do post for each group. And our second discussion is going to be really a little bit different than your focus for the last few weeks. It's using the therapeutic approaches dimension and also sharing some of your final thoughts. So in this discussion forum, each of you will begin by addressing therapeutic approaches and developing a post that really kind of speaks to the impact of 2 therapeutic approaches to 1 or more people in the case example. So the case example will be the Widener social work shared case, and you can find it right here. And in your post, you need to make sure you cite and reference at least 2 different therapeutic interventions from the group presentations that you got to view. So you'll need to view them first. That should be your support for the ideas that you have. You want to make sure that you're not summarizing the case example, and you want to make sure you're paraphrasing and not relying on direct quotes. So in this therapeutic approaches dimension, you reflect on each therapy, address potential therapeutic benefits to 1 or more people in the case example, and it should be from micro, meso, and macro dimensions. So the overall question is here. And then part 2 is really being able to share a little of your own experiences. So just answer the following prompts, which is describing 1 major takeaway from the course you plan to incorporate into your future work. And 2, are there any thoughts or comments you want to share with your classmates with whom you've gone on this journey throughout the course? So things you like to say, things you appreciate about them. So that is our discussion forum. And you will see our final activity is really ending with a bit of self-care. And so we want you to be able to have some sense of relaxation, some sense of a peacefulness that really comes having done all of this work for this week. So here is our meditation relaxation training. We encourage you to do that. You will also see after this, there is a short student evaluation just about your experiences in the course. And we always encourage you to make sure you complete that and give us just some feedback about things you like to see differently, things you really appreciated, things we should continue to do. Thank you so much for your participation in this course. Rich discussions, diverse spread of ideas, and I look forward to seeing you in other courses in your journey along to your trauma certification.